This is Cowboy Shit, and it's episode 109. It's the fifth episode of the fifth season for January 26, 2022. My name is Ted Stovin. My co-host, he is Wacey Anderson, the one and
What
only,
up?
the king of TikTok and Western world. He invented the hair, the
The
towel
dish towel
hair,
hair.
the yellow dish towel hair. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Is that actually? Did you actually make that up? Or did you see that?
I didn't make it up.
else?
I've been using it. It's part of my shtick. But
Where'd
now
you
then
find it? How'd you find that idea?
Oh God. I think I saw it like early deep in my deep TikTok days when I
so
tried to get
that's a thing. That's
like 20.
not...
Well, like I saw like somebody like people would put like a t-shirt on their head or like whatever to like signify that they're a girl. So then I like made my own adaptation to it of my yellow towel.
a yellow dish rag.
And now it's been really good for my horse girl skits that I do. I see other people adopting it, which is great. I think it's good. There's enough room for people to create. But yeah, it's become
Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, Wacey.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's why like I love TikTok. Like I think it's an unreal
But
platform.
how many people are stealing from you? A few?
It's like, but it's you know what? I don't know. I can't sit here and like claim. I can just keep creating the stuff that I create. There was one TikTok that I made that got skimmed off of, and I was pretty rattled. I wasn't rattled, but I was just like, oh man, like I did that exact same thing like 6 days before you did. Like theirs got like a million views, and mine have got like 100,000, which is still pretty good. But anyways, it's like it sucks when you have like when you make your own spin on something or a trend or whatever it may be, and then somebody else does the exact same thing, like the same niche as you, and it's like,
but
well,
isn't that what people like all TikToks are? Isn't everybody just doing the
well,
same?
it is, but it isn't a sense, but it's like you have your audience and who like what you're just like obviously our niche is like Western horse people, like rodeo Western.
Which one got stolen?
It was the Taylor Swift one where it's like I got the name. When you like drive, when you like sit through 250 barrel racers to watch your girlfriend knock 2 barrels or something like that.
Yeah.
Just like staring, yeah. And there was it was similar, like pretty much the exact same, like sitting and watching your girlfriend knock over 2 barrels or something. Anyways, but it's one of those things where it's like you kind of take a trend because there's and then you just adapt it to what your niche is. So there's a lot of.
So does that make you a trend setter?
I don't know. I think it just makes me someone who knows what my audience is and how to make them laugh.
And somebody gripped you off and stole your idea.
It is what it is, man. I don't really want it's one of those things, man, where it's like it's cool like having a sweet big following and stuff, but I actually enjoy making the stuff. I enjoy creating it. Mm-hmm. So I don't really care if it gets 20 vieys or 200,000 views. I just enjoy doing it.
If you're gonna do a TikTok with me in it, what would it include?
Man, I have a list of ideas of TikToks that I want to get you guys in on, but we just haven't had a chance to put them together.
Are we gonna do them this weekend when we go to Saskatoon?
We can, yeah, we can do. I have a pretty fun idea for our Saskatoon for TikTok.
Oh, really?
I want to. So there's like this thing, like, so I think that like and then I think Pittsburgh did it, or one of the NHL teams. They had their like mini mic, and they go up to people like, "Who do you think's to win the Super Bowl?" Or like, "What's your favorite TV series?"
But I want to do. I like the Dallas one. If you're a baseball player, what position would you play?
Yeah. So what I want to do is like go to somewhere like it's the Saskatoon Rush game. And it's Western night, so I want to go around and like show people like a certain Western thing, so like a set of Spurs, and be like, "What do you think this is?" And see if they can guess what it is correctly, and like kind of like a game show type thing. Mm-hmm. And then just go around and ask random people on the concourse like what that specific Western thing is. But I also have another one I want to do with Western brands. So go to like at Calgary, like go walk around the Midway and be like, "How do you pronounce this?" Or like, you know what I mean, just to see what people say. But be a fun one. But there's so much shit, dude. Like I literally have a list. Like I use this. I've started using this app in the new year called Notion. It's like a workflow kind of note taking thing. I have my journal on there, but I've been using it for like 3 weeks now. Mm-hmm. And I have like a list of like 30 TikTok ideas, and I get new ones every day. So I just like write them in there. So I just have them saved, so I know what I can kind of like put stuff out as it comes to me.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's sweet, man.
So we are going to the Rush game though this weekend. I've never been.
Yeah, big news, man. Game. Big news.
Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it, but we're going to the Rush game and we're going to do some stuff.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. Like I have a friend who works for the Blades and the Rush, and they're looking for some people to host their Western night. And it just so happens that you and I have a Western podcast, and
We're kind of Western.
people know who we are. So
Some
they're
days.
like, hey, you guys want to do it? And we're like, yeah, we do want to do it. So we're heading to Saskatoon this weekend.
Yeah.
The Saskatoon Saskatchewan Rush game, which
against
is gonna be
against Panther City, which is from Fort Worth. The home arena is the Dickies
oh
Arena.
really?
Yeah. How neat is that?
Damn, that's cool. And so it's cool. I've never been to a Rush game, but everybody
I heard it's
from back home, they say they're rowdy. Yeah. So sounds like we're in for an awesome time. We've got some fun stuff planned for everybody who's there at the game too. Like, come hang out. We'll got some games, got some stuff. Are we bringing any stuff with us? Are we have some like cowboy shit stuff with us or no?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
We might have some cowboy shit stuff with us. Come check out the game. We'll have a ticket link in our social media here over the next few days. So check it out and get you some tickets fixed up. And we'll be
come see us
at a lacrosse game.
We're gonna be doing some stuff before the game, a little bit during. So
we're gonna experience Saskatoon and Saskatoon Rush, Saskatchewan Rush. God dang,
Saskatchewan Rush. Get it right. But yeah,
it's kind of. Yeah, it'll be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good. I always enjoy going back to Saskatchewan because that's where I grew up. We'll have a lot of friends there, especially Saskatoon. A lot of my friends are there, so it's gonna be sweet. I'm pumped to do some fun stuff at SaskTel Center on Saturday night.
And the other part of it too is we're going to Saskatoon, so we're gonna leave here on Friday. Probably try and drive in the daylight. I think we'll leave here like 10 a.m. or something.
Damn,
we're there by
the day off, man.
Yeah, but like we'll skip over there. But one thing I want to do, I haven't done it in my adult life, is I want to go stay at the Delta Besborough, and I want to go to Stovin's Lounge. So there'll be some good content out of the lounge.
The Bez is nice.
Yeah, right. So we'll take the pup. Storm and I will go make a full weekend out of her. And
have you been to the Crazy Cactus?
Oh, what's the story with the Crazy Cactus?
Just the crazy party place. They have a drink called the Gringo, which is like beer, tequila, like all different kinds of stuff mixed together.
Is that our Saturday night plan after the game, or are we going to go to the Short Twig?
That's always the Long Branch.
We should get a deal out of them. We should be like the official after party promoters of the Short Twig.
Maybe Dixon will meet us. You
think Dixon will meet us there?
We should have given him a call, actually.
Okay, but Stovin's Lounge is aptly named after, like, there was one of my relatives from a few years back was the first guest to ever stay in the Delta Besborough.
So you have connections to Saskatoon, is what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially I do. But the lounge is actually named, it's my family name. It's Stovin's Lounge, so I gotta go check it out.
That's gonna be cool.
Never been there either, have you?
I've like stayed in the Besborough.
Yeah,
I've never been to Stovin's Lounge.
Yeah, it's it's the lobby bar, so it's like kind of like our jam.
Man,
right?
so
like, there's some drinks in some lobby bars. Before.
There's a TikTok for you right there, bud.
Right. Yeah. So I gotta show like my ID, or how do I? We'll have to dream up how this TikTok looks. But I think
let me sit on the idea for a bit. Okay, I'll come up with something.
It up.
I need to do some research, some TikTok research.
But come check us out at the Rush this weekend, Saturday the 29th, starts at 7 p.m. at SaskTel Center.
It's Country Night.
Co-op Field. Come check us out. Going to be a fun time. But we'll wrap this section up. We got some cool news on the bottom half. We'll talk more about Cowboy shit, Montana Silversmith's little mashup there we got on the go. Buckles on
shit's happening
now in store and online at cowboyshit.ca. Many Canadian retailers as well have a few of them. So, and check them out wherever you get Montana stuff. But we'll talk more of that in the second half of the show. But we'll be back here with an interview after this. It's episode 109 of Cowboy Shit with Ted and Wacey. I'm Ted. He's Wacey. Thank you for listening. We'll be back soon.
All right. Our next guest is a former world champion bull rider. He's a PRCA Hall of Fame inductee, an 8-time NFR qualifier, NFR average winner, and a past director of the PRCA and the bull riding. The list goes on and on. He's the guru of bull riding. Welcome to the Cowboy Shit Podcast, Gary Leffew.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I love it.
It's pretty cool. It's like a full circle moment because Teddy and I both spent some time going to your schools and kind of practicing the techniques you've been teaching over the years, and now we get to share it with our little audience we've built up here on the podcast. I've been really excited for this one.
Cool. I'll tell you what, I'm glad to hang out with you guys, man. What I got a white deal right in front of me. Do I hit something here to kind of get this thing to where I can see you guys? Says this meeting is being recorded. The host is a participant. leave meeting or whatever. I don't know.
You should be able to just press OK or something on it, or
just it says leave meeting or get it. Got it.
get it.
Got
Yeah,
it.
you should-
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
There we are. Here you guys are. Cool.
Nice.
We're back.
Yeah.
Back in progress now. Cool.
So Gary, Wacey talked about us both having gone to your school, but I guess now we're failed bull riders. So they're like, I guess maybe not total failures. We did win a little bit here and there, but there's probably a lot of your students that have gone on to do other things too. I'd imagine there's probably a few that, might not have been successful on the bull riding side of things to be a world champion or go to the national finals or PBR world finals, but there's probably quite a few that have taken your training on the mind side of things and turned it into success in other areas.
More than you can believe. I've had, I don't know how many millionaires and multimillionaires said that it all started right there at that school and the mindset that they developed, that I was teaching them for riding bulls. But I said, this applies to business too, because you're not going to ride bulls forever. And those guys took that mindset and went on to be highly successful in business, so I'm as proud of that accomplishment as I am, the bull riding, because that's, there's life after bull riding.
Who are there any of those people you could tell us about that we might recognize or that folks might know of? I'm kind of curious now. I guess you might not be able to say either, but I'm curious on that side.
Well, a lot of the guys they call me up and I'll run into them. I had you probably remember the bull riding tape I did called Shooting the Bull. And that was probably the most successful tape I ever did. I did it back in the 70s, but I had guys, I had a guy that, I was looking for another copy of it, because it was on them old, cassette tapes and they went bad. And so I run into the guy at the finals and I said, I've been looking to get one of those tapes that would work, and he said, well, that tape carried me not only to where I went to bull riding. I had some success, I didn't become no champion or nothing, but he said after bull riding, I become, really wealthy from the mindset that I developed there. And I said, man, I'd love to get a copy of that tape. And he says, I digitized it. So he sent me a digitized copy. Nice. And we dumped it over on CDs, and now CDs are are obsolete. So now we're in the process of putting them over where they can just download them on their phone. But that tape just lives on. I had a friend of mine. He was riding bulls and listening to it, and he loaned it to a guy, and he was in the mining industry, and this guy sold mining equipment, and he listened to that tape, went into a presentation. In fact, he said he never went into a presentation without listening to that tape first. And he became the leading seller of mining equipment in the world, made millions of dollars, so that tape, it lives on, so it's just the message that's in there is just, you're riding bulls, you got an 1,800-pound mad as hell bull you got to face every day. And if you're getting out of bed where you can't wait to get out of bed and go get on that sumbug, you got the right mindset. If you're dreading it, you're worried about what's going to happen or go wrong. The bull's a kind of a metaphor for life, because what you think about is what you're going to become. So if you worry about getting hurt or you worry about getting whatever, you're actually attracting that.
But the one thing that I learned in the week that I was there at your place is, and it's always stuck with me and something that I apply to my life all the time is only worrying about the stuff that you can control. I remember like the story you tell about showing up to a bull ride and it's raining out and whatever. So you can sit there and minge and whine about it, but you have no control over the rain or what the bull's going to do. You just got to focus on the job that you can do and bring your best to the table. And that's one thing that's like always stuck with me and one thing that I really, really apply to my everyday life.
I know, the year I went Calgary, me and John Quintana, we were up a day and it was sleet. It wasn't rain, it was sleet. It was coming down ice, and all the bull riders were bitching, God damn, what a piece of shit day to be up, and I told John, I said, because we always, on them rainy days, we always got a rope really sticky, put it back in a bag and then never touched it after that. When we put it on the bull, we stuck our hand and went with it, because if there's 2 drops of water on there, you run it up and down, you'll lose your rope, so you just get her sticky, pull her up, stick her in, have somebody hold a raincoat over where the rain doesn't hit it, so I said, let's get our ropes ready. There's a bar over there under the grandstand. We'll go there and sit and sip a little Crown Royal, not to get drunk, but just kind of, just to get in a good mood. And, that thing I loved about Canada, going up there in the spring, there was always a bottle of Crown Royal passed around behind the ship, telling Wild West stories. And you're really feeling good, getting on a kind of a colder spring day, and it just, man, you really felt like riding. So we went over there and sit over there, and I said, we'll come back and win first and second. We come back and everybody was just falling off like flies. I made one of the great rides of my career on a bull called 53, come from Joe Kelsey, originally come from Barnby. And John went second. So everybody else fell off, I think, and then I rode another bull in a short round, win the average, and, everything turned out good. But, I could have been out there with the rest of them just bitching, saying what a miserable day to be up, but you just don't do that. You make the best of whatever it is.
With going back, for those that might not know Gary's story, the book Psycho Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. So it's a book written quite a long time ago, isn't it, Gary? Like it's actually
back in the 1940s. Yeah, way back.
Yeah. But tell us a story about how you came across that book and how it changed things, going from being in a slump to totally changing your entire life, essentially.
Going back to you become what you think about. I never got on a bull till I was almost 20, and I was so eat up with it when I did. Even probably more the lifestyle than even the adrenaline rush of riding bulls, because I see these cowboys they were the fun lovingest bunch of guys I'd ever been around in my life. Went to the bar. They left with all the good looking girls. They were just, I said, man, what a lifestyle, these. And then I see them the next week they're at another rodeo. They're riding, they're laughing, they're telling jokes, they're having fun. They go to the bar, they leave with all the good looking women again, there's usually a brawl in every town in those days, because, the local guys were trying to protect their territory, and the girls loved the cowboys. So they were, so there was always a fight over the girls, and cowboys usually won, so it was a lot of fun in those days, So, but that, I was eat up with that lifestyle, so I said, whatever it takes, I don't care if they drag me through hell 10 times, I'm going to get good at this. And this time I'm going to make a living, so I started asking some of the older riders. I said, what's it take to get good at this? And one of them told me, said, well, you're going to have to get on about 100 bulls before everything starts to feel at home, because there wasn't no schools around then. And everyone just told you, stick your chest out, lift on your rope and try. So, and if you got enough try, you're going to make it, so I wasn't sure to try, but I think, because, I didn't have no rich parents. I grew up poor, and every dollar that I made for entry fees, I worked hard for it, so I wasn't going to go waste my money entering rodeos when I wasn't ready to enter a rodeo. I went to the practice pen, drove about 3.5 hours to a practice pen where I'd get on 5 bulls on Saturday and 5 on Sunday. And so that's 10 bulls closer to 100. And then I'd be back the next week if my body was able, and I'd get on 10 more, So it took me 1 year from the time I got on my first bull till I won Redding, California, which is, one of the top rodeos in the country. A year and 2 months is I went Great Falls, Montana while I was on my vacation. I went home, quit my job, and I placed at the next 10 rodeos I went to. And we always talk about the law of attraction, how because when I got into bull riding, all I dreamed about was night and day was how good it was going to be when I got to quit this miserable job that I had. And luckily I had a miserable job. I always tell guys, you want to get good at bull riding, 8 seconds don't look so bad when you got to go to work at a miserable job every day. And I had one that was right on the coast of California. It was foggy, it was windy, and it was cold and damp every day. And I hate dampness, I hate wind blowing that dampness. And, but I showed up early. I stayed late. I made a hand because that's the way I was raised. My dad taught me if they're paying you $2 an hour, give them $4 worth of work. Show up early, stay late, make a hand, whatever you're doing, because that's going to carry over to your work ethic at what you want to do, So I made a hand, but that wasn't where I planned on staying, So it took me a year and 2 months to finally to be able to go back and quit that job. Now, everything seemed to be falling in place because all I dreamed about every day was when I was going to be able to quit that job, be out on the road. And I just, I would fantasize about it constantly, how romantic it would be to being in Calgary, be in New York City, I remember we rode in the Toronto at the Maple Leaf Gardens in 1965, where the legendary, hockey players play, and, so rodeo took me everywhere, but at that time I was dreaming about it. And one of the great philosophers said, the best state that a human being can be in is called a state of positive expectancy. When you're dreaming about how good life is going to be when you get to a certain destination, once you get to that destination, it's never going to be as good as it is in that dream. So the trick is you say, well, this is pretty goddamn cool, but wait till I get over there. Then you go right back into a positive state of expectation, and that's the best state a human can be in. I think Earl Nightingale put it. He said, the secret to happiness is the progressive realization of a worthwhile ideal or goal. When you're striving for a goal and you're making progress, you're the happiest you'll ever be, because that's how we're designed. That's, as human beings, we're goal-striving beings. So we set goals, we dream about them, and we keep working our way towards them. So everything was going great, by the now the 10th rodeo, the rod started knocking in my car, and it blew up at Salina, Kansas. So, and I had the back seat taken out. I had a plywood in there, and I had my air mattresses there so I could sleep in there. It's like having your own camper, only as a station wagon, But I was living cheap, putting money away, making sure I had plenty of money, making it through the winter rodeos, and I was winning. When the car blew up, that seemed like bad luck at the time, but it turned out to be the best luck ever happened to me, because the next morning I went out and I went third in the bull riding. I was waiting in the hotel lobby to catch a ride with anybody going to the next rodeo. I left 90% of my stuff in my car. I packed light. The world's champion, a guy named Bill Cornell, won the world's champion when he was 19. And Dickie Cox, who was runner-up for the world's championship the year before behind him, were the first guys come through the lobby, and I asked if I catch a ride with them. I said, hell yeah. They loaded me up. I traveled with them the rest of the summer and for most of the rest of my career, and they become two of my best friends. So what's the chance of an old kid just cracking out and all of a sudden you're traveling with the two best bull riders out there? So the law of attraction is big. Your thoughts are very powerful. They attract either good or bad. If you're hanging out with negative people, you're constantly bitching and complaining about circumstances, you're just drawing more of that shit into your life, But if you turn your thinking around and you start to not let yourself ever think negative, and that's, when I read psycho-cybernetics, the whole concept of positive thinking is never let a negative thought in your head. If it gets in there, kick it out, replace it with a positive. So it's like, okay, computer, don't accept that. Get out, replace it with a positive. Once you get in the habit of doing that, which is tough, because I think the first 21 days they had me monitor everything anyone said to me and everything I said to myself, and anything negative, reject it. I was really amazed at the end of that 21 days, probably the most negative things said to me were by me. So I would go, get out, stay out, put a positive back in its place. And once I got that locked in and where it become a habit, then everything turned around in my life.
And did it take that 21 days or was there?
It takes 21 days to create that habit. I took 2 months off and reprogram myself. And now the mind is a perfect mimic. When I taught Luke Perry how to ride bulls for the movie 8 Seconds, they said, we want you to teach Luke Perry how to ride bulls, but you can't put him on any bulls to teach him, So that really tested whether my drills worked and the visualization techniques and all that stuff worked. Now, actors are paid pretenders. They're pretending they're somebody else when they're acting. So Luke Perry was easy to teach because he was already knew how to pretend, that he was someone else. So I related the story to him. I said, when I got into positive thinking, there was a guy by the name of George Paul around, still the greatest bull rider I ever seen. He rode 67 bulls in a row when he cracked out without getting bucked off. The guy was an athlete, super athlete. Couldn't tell you one thing about how to ride bulls, but there wasn't anything to buck him off. So when me and my traveling partner, my best friend, John Quintana, we said, whatever we're doing, we're going to change it and do it like him, because he is, he was amazing. So when I did visualization, I did what they call role modeling, is I would visualize George Paul riding, because we didn't have no video then, but when he rode, from the time he come in the rodeo till he left, I watched everything he did. I watched him on bulls. I logged it in my brain. And when I did visualization, I would try to imagine what it looked like and felt like to be George Paul. So I would see visions of George Paul riding, and I'd say, that's me. Anything you run through your mind repeatedly, the mind will believe. Once it believes, magic happens. Now, for 2 months there, probably I watched at least 200 rides of George Paul in my mind, saying, that's me, that's me, that's me. The difference when I went to Denver, Colorado was 2 months before that, because I made, I kind of back up a little bit here. From the time I started, it took me 3 years to end up 10th for the world. My third year out, I ended up 10th for the world, made my first NFR. Jim Shoulders was pulling my rope every night. And the first 6 rounds, I was placing and riding good. And then I rode a rope so loose that I probably let maybe a foot of it back, fed it back about a foot. And I just totally rode on balance back then. In the eliminator round, I had a big belly rolling bull, and that rope rolled across the back. When I went under him, he stepped on my ankle and fractured my ankle. So it put me out the rest of the finals. And then I was out. I missed, a few rodeos before I cracked back out. But I got married. I had a kid on the way, and I started to worry about responsibility. When I started to worry about responsibility, I was worrying what would happen if I don't win, instead of worrying about what will happen if I do win. And whatever you run through the mind will believe. So to make a long story short, I went 6 months, didn't stay on a bull. The harder I tried, the worse I did, because the conscious mind, by the time you see a move and think about it, you're a jump late. Everything's got to be on the unconscious side. The unconscious side of the mind works at the speed of light, and it processes 1 billion pieces of information per second. So that's the side I'd been on, because I was always in that dream side. Once I got on the conscious side, no matter how talented I was, that talent went out the window. 2 months of reprogramming George Paul into my mind. When I got to Denver, 2 months before that, there wasn't a bull in there that looked like that I had the confidence I thought I could stay on. 2 months later, without doing anything but visualization, there wasn't a bull in there that looked like it could buck me off. There was confidence like I'd never felt in my life. I'd never felt that confident. And I had one of the rankest bulls in rodeo. I ended up being 1 point off the all-time record, when I rode him there. And, so where did that confidence come from? Damn sure didn't come from personal experience, but the mind cannot tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined experience. So those George Paul images of running through my mind over and over and over again, once my mind believed that, then all the emotions stem from your subconscious. So the emotions of confidence showed up instead of the emotions of doubt, fear, and worry, and I went 3 months, never got bucked off. I went all the way to runner-up for the World's Championship behind George Paul. He won the national finals. I went second. I come back the next year, went third, rode the bull of the year in the 10th round, made the high mark ride of the NFR. Come back the next year, rode 9 out of 10, win the NFR average, won the World's Championship. So everything turned around. Once I did a checkup from the neck up. So that's why teaching a bull riding school, if you don't incorporate the mental side of the game, you're not teaching the game right.
Well, when you were in that slump, though, how did you find the ways to dig yourself out of it? Like you said, you that checkup from the neck up, but how did you, for some guys, like, where do you start that? You know what I mean? Like especially in
for me, I said, okay, I'm going to take some time off because what I needed to do was reprogram my mind. The mind is just a computer, and then reading Maxwell Maltz's book said that any results, it's going to take 21 days to get results before everything switches over to the other side of the mind, So until then, you'll be thinking, but after 21 days, you start switching over to the other side of the mind where, whatever you program in is going to start showing up. So I figured 2 months, that's 60 days. So I took her longer than 21 because I wanted to make sure I was well programmed by the time I cracked out. And it's like I read another book called The Magic of Believing. And they said that once you believe something, magic happens. And the only way that man can artificially implant faith, our belief into the subconscious mind is through repetition of thought. Taking the end result pictures of that end result and what it feels like. The feelings are actually more important than what it looks like. Conjuring up that feeling of what it feels like to succeed is the most important thing about your visualization, feeling the. I remember when I won the Rose Bowl one year, there was 80,000 people screaming in the stands. I mean, it was one of the most electric crowds I was ever in front of, and I'm feeling that energy before I get on. I look at that bull and go, man, you're fucked. You ain't bucking me off in front of 80,000 people. So, Calgary, riding at Calgary. That when I rode that bull at Calgary, it was so loud that I couldn't hear the whistle. I just, and I wasn't about to get off before the whistle. And the pickup man finally rode up next to me and hollered, "You can get off now." So, it's just like those feelings, you remember them forever, because it's so exhilarating, But when you're in visualization, that's what you want to conjure up. Freckles Brown, one of the great riders of all time, won the world when he was 41. He was 46 when he won the NFR, but he was a January baby, so he was closer to 47. I come in, I think, 1968 in third place. He was in second place. He was 48 years old. When Albuquerque was 51, the guy was amazing. I'd go ask Freckles about a bull I'd have to draw. I said, "Freckles, what can you tell me about this bull?" He never told me anything mechanically about how to ride a bull. He'd say, "Remember what it felt like when you made that really great ride at Cheyenne, Calgary, Salinas, someplace." And I said, "Oh, I never felt better on a bull in my life." He goes, "That's what this one's going to feel like. This is going to be first place. Let me pull your rope." So he knew by taking you in that feeling spot that would open up everything that rode the bull before. And he never pulled my rope and never gave me advice that I had to make the whistle. It was just like, he was amazing. He was way ahead of his time there.
I want to talk about further along in your bull riding career, Gary. You win the world in 1970, and I was looking at a few things here, and you won Pendleton in 1979 and Reno in 1981, 10, 11 years after. What was after the world title, what was your career like? I'm curious that way.
It's really funny, how, you talk about, you become what you think about, and when I teach my students, like Sage Kimsey's one of my students, and I don't know how many times I've texted him, and just sometimes he has a tendency to get pissed off at things, and I'll text him and say, never give energy to anything you can't control, and I'll tell you that story in a minute here, but it's what was we talking about there a second ago?
The second part of your career, like from the second after
part
the world title
till
you retired.
Once I set a goal to be, I set a goal to be a world champion. First year I was runner up, second at the finals. Next year I was third. Come in, I think I went fifth at the end average, but I win the last round when the high mark right of the finals. And I come in there a little unprepared that year. The year before I got on like 50 Herefords before I went there. And it's something that I recommend today. Josh Frost, who's just kicking their ass, won the average last year. Him and Joe both, when they practice, they only practice on jumping kickers. Because Joe, the first year he made the national finals, he called Denny Flynn. He said, "Denny, nobody's winning more money at the more NFRs than you. What's the trick?" He said, "Get on 2 jumping kickers a day for 30 days straight." He said, "Not spinners." He said, "No, just jump kickers. Perfect the jump kick. Spin takes care of itself." So it went back to, when I got on like 60 Herefords before I went to the finals. I'd go up and get on, 5, 6 to 10 at a time. And so by the time I got to the finals, I had like 60 bulls under my belt I'd rode. They weren't rank. They were just big old fat Herefords, but they were something that I succeeded at. And that builds confidence. You don't build a lot of confidence riding one, bucking off another, by riding one, bucking off another. You want to succeed. That builds confidence. I go to the finals, all kinds of confidence, kick their ass, win second behind George Paul. Had a great year. The next year, I thought, well, if I get ranked bulls to practice on, then I'll be that much better, And I had some rank some bucks at my pants, Ride one, there's one he'd weld me, hook me, So I finally got him rode, but it was a struggle to go down and practice because them bulls were so rank, where before it was just I couldn't wait to go down there and have fun. And because of it, my confidence wasn't where it had been the year before, and I struggled and got bucked off the first 2 bulls. I come out the third round, and I knew I had to loosen myself up. So I told the gate man, I said, when I take my wrap, open the gate. He said, what if you're not ready? I said, good, I'll get ready. So as I'm taking my hand across my rope the first time, I see out of the corner of my eye, the gate's coming open. So I just had to squeeze my hand, jump at my rope, and I win the go around. So it was just a blur. Everything was just happening. I didn't have time. Yeah. So I told him next night, I said, let me get the wrap, and then open the gate. So every night after that, but when I come across that wrap, that gate was coming open, and I rode good the rest of the week when rode the Black City Bull of the year in the round. So, the next year I didn't ride rank bulls before I come. I went back to the jumping kickers, come there with a lot of confidence, rode 9 out of 10, win the average, win the world's championship. So I'd set my goals to win a world championship, but I hadn't set my goals to win 10 world championships, 8 world championships, whatever. And because you have a tendency when you win a championship to go in the next year, as a world's champion, instead of wanting to be a world's champion. And I nosedived the next year. I think I dropped all the way to 11th place because I was, that goal wasn't in front of me of multiple championships, and I struggled for about a year and a half there. And in 1972, I missed the first half of the season with, and when you're not mentally right, injuries seem to show up. You're attracting injuries. You're not prepared. You're thinking too much. And, so I had some struggles there. Even though I made the finals, 11th place for a world champion ain't nothing. You should be right back up on top. 72, I never cracked out till August. So I had August, September, and October to rodeo. And because I was late, I decided I was devising a game plan. So I had a shirt made that said, I am hot, and the reason I said I am hot, because every time they talked about someone that was winning, they said, have you heard about so-and-so? Man, he's hot. Have you heard about so-and-so? He's hot. So the one thing I wanted to say about Gary Leffew is, have you heard about Gary Leffew? He's hot. So why not advertise? I am hot. So I show up with this shirt, and these guys are, and no one in those days even raised their hands when they got off. They just kind of tipped their hat and walked off, So I become one of the first show dogs, So I had this shirt. I walk in behind the chutes, and I'm just having fun with it, and these guys go, hey, Leffew, what's with the shirt? I said, which part don't you understand? I am or hot? They go, what do you got drawn? I said, don't matter. When you're hot, they all buck, And I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I always had this ritual. I would stand in front of the chutes, 3 or 4 feet from the bull, and I would visualize the bull that wasn't supposed to go. Because in those days, these days, you go up, you just want to draw when you can ride, because they got everything bucks, But in those days, if you could ride, you want to draw the buckiness bull in there, but you show up and you got one of them fillers, and you're not going to win anything unless you have something that really bucks, it's a lot of guys would double enter. They maybe enter 2 or 3 rodeos, go where they had a good bull, and then turn out at the other ones to pay the turnout fines. I didn't turn out anywhere. I just showed up, and they said, what do you got? And I said, got to be the best one on them. So I'm standing in front of the chute, and I'm visualizing this bull turning back and me winning first. And then I'm looking over my shoulder in my visualization of the riders on the back of the chute shaking their heads, say, look at that lucky son of a bitch, So the bull, and what I've understand now, bulls are telepathic. Humans have 4 levels of consciousness. We're beta, alpha, theta, delta. Animals are theta, delta, they're lower level, and they communicate through mental telepathy. So whatever your thoughts are, when you're in your imagination, they're picking up on. I'll give you an example. The ranch I was raised on, when my dogs got fleas, I'd throw them in a dipping vat, this big vat that they throw cattle in. Cattle jumped in, they killed all the fleas, ticks, everything, but they'd stink of that sheep dip, for a month after that, So they hated it, So one morning I'm sitting at the breakfast table, and I'm thinking, I noticed some ticks and fleas on the dogs yesterday. I don't throw them into the dipping vat. I walk out on the porch. One dog's upside down peeing on himself, and the other one is 75 yards away running in the barn to go hide. They read my thoughts before I got outside, So they're very clairvoyant. So then bulls are the same thing. They read your thoughts. So instead of going, hey, I got this piece of shit drawn, I ain't gonna win anything, I'm thinking, What if this somebody turns back and I win first and I'm out there doing this and the guys are going, yeah, lucky son of a bitch, pointing at my I am hot shirt, that bull licked his ass right at the end of the gate. I win the bull ride and then I'm out there like this, So everyone go, God damn, somebody ain't supposed to buck, So I come in the next, what do you got this time, hot man? Got to be the best on him. I got him, One bull after another, after another, after another. Turned back at the end of that gate and I win first, and you couldn't buck me off anything. I rode everything I got on. And I went from nothing won to runner up for the World Championship by the end of October. John Quintana, who's one of the great bull riders of all time, great ranked bull rider. I started gathering him up, 1,000, 1,500 a week. Even though he was winning, I was winning more. I was gathering him up. Oh, I had him nervous as a prostitute in church. But, I just kind of run out of time. He ended up winning it. But what a great run it was. Donnie Gay cracked out of high school, him and Monty Henson. He come up to me in the middle of that run. He goes, hot man, I like your style. I want to travel with you. I want to be baby hot. So I said, you're in there, And guy said, how come you travel with them kids? I said, one word, enthusiasm. I said, when you're around kids with that much enthusiasm, and nobody had more enthusiasm than Donnie Gay and Monty Henson, so they made me feel like I was 10 years older. I was like 29 at the time. They had 19 or 18. So they made me feel like a kid again. We just had a ball, but I remember setting them down one day and I said, okay, we don't want to make the same mistake that I made. I want you to know where you're going, where you want to be 15 years from now. How many world championships have you won? What have you accomplished? Because if you know where you're going, you can get there. Most people don't know where they're going. They become a wonder in generality instead of a meaningful specific, as Zig Ziglar used to put it. But so Donnie said, I've won more world championships than anyone's ever won. I said, that's a great goal, but you're only going to win them one at a time. And when you win that first one, enjoy your 15 minutes of fame and then leave it behind. Because the only thing you're focusing on is world championship number 2. You're not a world champion going in, you're a contender. You go in there even with everybody else, you want to win a world championship. I said, that's the only way that you can do it. And he just kept, I remember when he won that first one, he walked over to me, tossed me the buckle, said, take a good look, champ. First hill on the way to the mountain, So, and you see what he went ahead and accomplished. And Sage Kimsey, I've told him the same thing. He come to 4 of my schools, and he really embraced the mental side of the game. He set goals. I remember one year Donnie come to me and he legitimately got screwed. He rode 2 bulls that had never been rode and went third on both of them. And they rode tail chasers to beat him. So he had a legitimate bitch. But when you got 10 bulls, you can't waste your energy on something you can't control. So Donnie told me he was on his show and he was bitching about getting screwed. And so I texted him that night when I was having my buck and ball there at the Gold Coast that year. And so I texted him about 3 a.m. when I got home, and I said, Sage, I said, we've talked about this many times. You never give energy to something you can't control. I said, you can't control the weather, you can't control the judges, and you can't control, the draw. What you can control is your attitude and your preparation, and that's it. So if you're wasting energy, 2 rounds later on something that's already passed that you have no control over, that's energy you need for the next so many bulls you're getting on. So leave it behind. So he texted me back the next morning and said, thanks, I needed that. So I constantly remind him, stay focused. This year he had a little slump in the middle, but every day I told him, nobody rides better than you. You're the best. Don't lose faith, just stay focused. And, he come back like he always does. And, made some great rides and pulled her off, win another world championship, So, that guy is like, he's so consistent and he's one of the few guys in bull riding that does not have a weak side. Jose Lemmy has really worked at hard at shearing up his riding away from his hand. That's why he's won like 2 PBR World Championships. But the Brazilians, they are higher on him than they are JB Mooney, because they say they feel like he's the most complete bull rider they've ever seen. And they'd all love to be able to ride bulls away from their hand like he does. And he, because he doesn't have a weak direction. No matter what they do, when he's on, he rides them with ease.
So with your teaching aspect, would that have started with like being around Donnie? Like, do you kind of see that for yourself as your next step in your career, becoming like this teacher and what you do now?
When I started the schools, years ago, tell you the truth, I was a horrible teacher, for mechanic wise, because we didn't have no video then, so much was on the unconscious side of the mind, but I'm always I've always had a curious mind. I've always tried to figure out what makes things work, and I invented the drop barrel, and, I've invented all kinds of stuff, because, I'm always looking at it very, from a kind of just backing up and having a look at it and see what works, so I studied bull riding probably more than anybody has ever studied bull riding. I broke it down. I was the first one back when nobody had videotape. I spent $20,000 on 3/4 inch tape. That's the only place that 3/4 inch tape was at TV places. And the only thing you could do then was just stop at a frame at a time. But I was able to stop frame bull rides and see, the 2-point position where the great riders rode as opposed to where the non-great were. And it started evolving. I become a better and better teacher, and I'm a way better teacher now than I was 20 years ago, because I've never quit. As a teacher, you never quit learning, so, and you learn a lot from your students as well, so, but, obviously, we won 9 out of 10 rounds this year. Most of the rounds were won first and second by my students. Josh Frost, who I did personal training with me, his brother Joe sent him to me. He said he's in a slump, and he's having hell, go see the guru, so he paid for his way out. I was able to, to look at these guys, see where they're at, and show them how to fix themselves. So we've been improving on that again and again and again. And we're at the point right now where, like I said, at Denver this week, Josh went in Denver. Bubba Gregg, kid, has been with me ever since he was like 12, 13 years old. He won second. I think they're first and second in the world right now. Bubba's way in the lead for the rookie of the year, and he was having big time hip problems last year. He had, so he finally found someone that works on him, keeps them hips in place. And, he's really starting off having a good year. Stopped off to see me a couple of weeks ago. He's in a slump on bull's into his hand. We took a look at him. He is getting his arm in front of his face. We kicked that elbow back out in front, got that elbow behind his ear, and he's been good since, so I'm kind of like a motor mechanic. I can take a look at a rider and I can find what's going on, Number one cause of buck off at this year's NFR was guys throwing their arm in front of their face on bulls into their hand. I hate that move, You look at Josh Frost and Bubba Greggs there at Denver this week, you see that elbow stays behind their ear the whole time. They just locked in. Donnie Gay kept it back here. When I put a deal above Bubba, not Bubba Gutto. I keep thinking of Bubba Gutto way back in the good old days. Anyway, one of these young riders was throwing his arm in front of his face, and I just put him briefly, and then he was unhappy about it, so I took it down. But Donnie Gay, I said, number one cause of buck offs this year's NFR was guys throwing their arms in front of their face going into their hand. And Donnie Gay commented and said, my sentiments exactly, because he didn't kick that arm in front of the face. He kept that some behind his ear, But that's something, there was a couple of guys years ago that kind of started that move. And the reason they did, they rode loops on the inside. And when you run your spur in a loop back then, you had to keep your weight on the outside so that loop would stay locked in there. If you tipped over in there and that foot went down, it would kick it out. So they developed that move, throw behind their head, throw it around front, slide their butt out and keep that loop locked in. That's where that move come from, but it's not a proper move if you're not a loop rider.
Sounds like a Chris Shivers move to me.
You hit it right on the nose, he was the world's best at it, but, him being, going in early, he was, I think they never did disqualify him his whole career, because he was such a big star overnight, and so they let him have it, So I remember there was a Brazilian come over. He had both of them, and they disqualified him. He slammed Cody Lambert up against the chute. They throwed him out for a year, and he never did come back, But But I see some of the Brazilians here lately. I see them reaching down there. They got their shafts a little longer, and I see a lot of them because they're weak away from their hand. They're really, really tough into their hand. But some of them I see are starting to grab loops, and because their shafts are long, I guess the judges can't see it, and they kind of let them get away with it, But
I haven't heard them call it in a while now. It was kind of a thing there.
I haven't called it in a long time, but I see some guys are still doing it, so. Especially some Brazilians are starting because they're weak away from their hand. Most of them, Now Adriano Moraes was different. He was a straight armer. He straight armed out there, rode around on his legs. He was really he liked him away from his hand better than he did into his hand. And I don't know where he learned that. I know Charles Sampson. I picked him up in L.A. He didn't have no money. I said, "He'll come up. I'll trade you out work for lessons." And so he used to come up, live at the place. And I trained him how to ride bulls. After he became a legendary champion, he had a school in Brazil, and Adriano come to that school. And so I remember my son Judd asked Adriano one day, he said, "Do you do drills?" And he said, "In front of a mirror for hours, roll the shoulder, behind the ear, roll the shoulder, behind the ear, for hours." So and I had, you remember at the house, the big full-length mirror I had, in my gym in there where we trained. I used to put Charles in front of that and have him do those drills, where he'd see himself, make sure he wasn't making any mistakes. So he said when he was down there, he got Adriano in front of a mirror and got him to do that. So he learned them mirror drills. And I think that's probably where he learned how to straight arm out instead of lift on bulls away from his hand, because he was really good. He's like Sage Kimsey. He's good either way.
There's a few things I really want to get to, Gary. I don't know how long you have. I don't want to keep it before supper.
I got plenty of time. We got however long you want to talk. I'm here for you, buddy.
So. Nice. So there's a few things. So one thing that really piqued my interest and something that I've been focused on for a long time is the meditation side of things. And you mentioned the different states of consciousness. There's only one time where I remember being in front of the I'm not sure what state it is, but I was actually in front of the TV screen where it was just the black and gray kind of, I don't even know what you call it, but it was like static. It was just kind of like gray, and I was in a different spot at that point, but I haven't been able to get back there. But most of what I do is on the guided side of things. So I'm kind of curious, but you mentioned the different states of consciousness, and I'm just curious on your experience that way, and what those different levels are and how people experience that. And
I think one of the most important parts of meditation is breathing, is getting the breathing down, because your average breath rate is about 12 to 18 breaths per minute. And we have a tape we do we listen to with a gal called Anna Wise. It's called High Performance Mind. And she'll say, "Okay, I want you to, for the next minute, to just monitor every thought that goes through your head." That minute seems like it goes on forever, because you just got one thought after another. You're kind of tripping from one thought to another. And then she goes, "Okay, minute up." She goes, "Okay, this time I want you to do another minute, but I want you to relax your tongue. When you relax your tongue, it's hard to talk to yourself because you find yourself talking to yourself during that minute. So you do another minute, with totally relaxing your tongue where you don't talk to yourself." Then she says, "Okay, your average breath rate's 12 to 18 breaths per minute, So she says, I want you to count how many breaths you take in this next minute. And when that minute's up, there'll be somewhere between 12 and 18. And I've done this many times with my students. So I said, okay, let's slow that down the next time to maybe 3 or 4 breaths per minute. I get down to the point where I'm a breath and a half in a minute, and I'm not losing any oxygen. I'm just very slow in and very slow out. But as you slow that down, you start to switch over to the other side of the mind, and my students have done it. They'll say they'll do it before they get on, and all of a sudden, where you see guys back behind the chutes trying to slap themselves, trying to get that adrenaline running, get that feeling. Well, when you're on the conscious side of the mind, it won't come. Fight or flight comes naturally. So when you relax and you start to slow your breathing way down, and that's all you can think about is just your breathing, just right there. All of a sudden the chute boss says you're next. Your heart starts pounding, adrenaline starts running, everything comes naturally, But when you visualize and you do visualization, you do that same thing. You get those breath rates way down, and it just starts sinking you down into that other level of consciousness, and you'll go down with Anna Wise. The first time I read her book, is I did her technique. And I remember I just seen these incredible, like bluish green colors, like more vivid than anything I'd ever seen. It was like I was just mesmerized by them. Then all of a sudden, there was this almost like it was a spotlight, and it looked like a horse jumping up and down on this guy, stomping him and biting him. And I go, what the hell? And when I move in close, this guy's got a broken leg, and it's run out through his pants leg, and I go, holy shit, that's me. And it was a traumatic experience when a bull snapped my leg off. When you're in the NFR, it's like 16 degrees on the arena floor that night. And it was so cold that when I took my wrap, that rosin just froze in my hand. You probably experienced that in Canada because you're riding a lot more cold places than we do down here, And I normally I could get off weight my hand, but it hung me just long enough to kind of throw me back under that bull, and it snapped my leg off. And then I'm trying to run. He's trying to hook me. And all of a sudden I look down, I'm looking at the bottom of my foot, looking at me at my knee, and my bone stuck out through my pants leg, And so most traumatic experience in my life, you think your career's ended and everything else, but those experiences will get trapped in your subconscious. So, she said, okay, do this, this, and this, and we're talking about what you've seen. So when I opened the book back up, she goes, okay, here's what you might have seen. She described the vivid colors, and then she said maybe uninvited imagery, a traumatic experience out of your childhood or your past. And there was nothing more traumatic in my whole life than seeing that, especially when it's on me. But she said, when those experiences, when you relive them, that releases them. Otherwise, they could, you can live the rest of your life with fear and phobias and all kinds of stuff, So it was a good exercise. But then doing more with her, I was able to go down. I've actually had conversations with people at that lower level of consciousness. I remember one time there's a one called the Hall of Doors, where you go down this long hallway of just brightly colored doors on both sides, and you go in one door, and then you just kind of see what's in there, and if you don't like, you change it, because you're magic down there. But I walked up to this door one day, and it said the Sage on it, So I said, oh, that's cool. So I opened it, and this mystic sage looked like a cross between Willie Nelson and maybe one of those guys out of the Lord of the Rings. And sitting there, and he goes, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, Sage, I'm kind of scattered right now. I got like 10 projects going on, and I'm, when you got too many projects going, I ain't going anywhere. I need to kind of figure out which ones to get rid of and which direction to go. He said, well, tell me about it. So I told him about the first one, and he said, total waste of time. What else you got? And so I told him about my next one. He said, wouldn't waste another ounce of energy on that. What else you got? So he shot me down. And so the only thing I had left is I'd read a book called The Artist's Way, and I'd started writing. And they have a deal in The Artist's Way where you write 3 pages of dialogue without thinking about what you're writing. It's like automatic writing. You just let it come straight from the subconscious. You might have something like bull riding on the top, or whatever, just anything, just put a heading, clear your head, don't think, and just write. It comes straight from the subconscious, And so I used to think I could write, but when I sat down to write, I switched from the unconscious to the conscious, and everything looked like shit, So I thought, shit, maybe I can't write, I thought I could, but I can't, But when I wrote without thinking about what I was writing, all of a sudden, at first, a lot of shit come out. It's like hitting the junk button on your computer. You start throwing junk out of your brain that don't need to be there. You start throwing shit out. And then pretty soon it starts to refine, and everything started to come on. Holy shit, this is some cool stuff. I can write, And so, I ended up writing the script. I sold it to Johnny Knoxville, but when I told the Sage that all I had left was I'd read this book and I'd start writing, and I really liked it. He said, that's your direction. Follow it. I said, really? He goes, yeah. 1 month later, I got a call from a friend of mine who trained horses for the best rider in Hollywood. And he said, hey, this guy that I train horses for is trying to do a Western, but he's about to give up on the project because he can't get the spirit of it. I should get you two together. I said, yeah, I want to meet him. 10 minutes after I met this guy, he said, you want to go to work for me? I said, you got a lot of money? I'm expensive. He said, I got a lot of money. So he put me up in a $3,500 a month luxury apartment, paid me more money than a show dog could jump over. And I worked on him. I worked with him for 3.5 years, doing, just writing every day. And he come up to me and say, what would this guy say here? And I give him a line. He'd go tell the actor and they'd give it to him. So it was like 3.5 years of just getting paid for having fun every day. Just an incredible time in my life, but it wouldn't have probably showed up had not the sage told me that's the direction you need to go, and then everything, the law of attraction started manifesting. And so I don't know whether it was a real sage or whether it was a wiser part of myself. Don't care. But you'll see some stuff down there that'll blow you away, really blow you away, So it's almost like you're in another dimension when you go down there, when you get down there, right, But the thing of it is, you can't force your way down there. You have to relax and just let yourself go there instead of try to force yourself there, But once you start learn how to get there, you'll find some amazing things happen in your life because magic happens down there.
And so you'd suggest, reading a few of these different books, going into some further guided meditation.
Anna Wise is gone now, but if you can go on, Amazon has everything anymore, and find her high performance mind tapes, and then there's one called the Hall of Doors. Start with the Hall of Doors because that's one I started with. But there's some great meditations on there, and her tapes will. And I've done them with students for years, and then I ask them what they've seen after, while they were down there, and they, and the biggest percentage of the guys that were in the school doing them seen some wild stuff while they were there. I remember one guy told me one day, I said, "What do you see down there?" He said, "I see my wife watching this TV show," and we were in California, she was in North Carolina around the Eastern Seaboard. I said, "Well, call her up." He said, "No, she's at work." I said, "I bet she ain't." He calls her up, she was home. I said,
yeah.
He said, "Were you just watching this certain show?" He said, "What are you doing home?" She goes, "Well, I didn't feel good today. I kind of feel sick." He said, "Were you watching this certain show?" He said, "How'd you know?"
No way.
So, we're all clairvoyant. We all have, we have mental powers that we don't know we even have, but once you start going down there more and more, you start opening that side of your mind up, and you become much more clairvoyant, much more open. Things start coming to you more and more, your direction in life starts coming to you, so it's once you get into meditation, it's something that you always be with, because it's, and it's something I always try to get my students to start meditating on their future, and then setting up that law of attraction and going down there for guidance. You actually, a lot of times go there with an open mind and you kind of receive messages, what direction to go on, or the automatic writings. Another great thing is you just put bull riding down, slow your breathing down, take time to just clear your head. Zen masters say when you clear your head of all conscious thought, you experience experience the experience of 10,000 lifetimes. There's nothing you don't already know how to do when you totally clear your head of all thought. The conscious thought process just gets in the way. You got to get on the other side of the mind. I read a book called Surfing the Himalayas, and it's all about Zen. And Zen's not a religion; it's a philosophy. And so I'd been to the Cowboy downhill for I don't know how many damn years, 20 years, something like that, and I never made it through that course because I'm not a skier, And I'd always try to think my way through it, and I'd crash somewhere down there. If I made it to the jump, I'd crash there. Usually didn't even make it that far. But according to this book, if I cleared it, did the head clearing process and pretended I was a professional skier, all the skill that it takes to be a professional skier would come to me, So I was in this line, and I was 57 at the time. There was a guy from Vail that I was skiing against. He was 25 and an excellent skier. And he said, "I drew you, old man." I said, "Hey, show some respect, punk." He said, "I'll show you some respect. I'll be waiting for you with a beer when I get down there at the bottom." I said, "You want to bet?" He said, "Yeah, what do you want to bet?" I said, "I need a ski jacket, but when I beat you, you're going to have it embossed. Gary, looking back at you, Leffew." I might have showed it to you while you was there. Right here. But he sent it to me. But on the way to that starting line, You know, I slowed my breathing down. I cleared my head. My heart was jumping through my chest. I had adrenaline running through just like I was getting on the rankest bull in the world. Yet the best state that you can be in athletics is called hyperbody quiet mind. Worst state that you can be in is hyperbody hypermind. You know, hypermind cannot control hyperbody. You have to have a quiet mind. Quiet mind works at the speed of light. Hypermind is erratic. So I was in that totally hyperbody quiet mind state. The gun went off. I'm a professional skier. I shot out of there, down through them gates. I went over that jump, through the rest of the gates, slid to a stop, roped this girl, saddled this horse, crossed the line. I looked back. The guy's 2/3 of the way down the hill. I'm already crossed the line. He come down and said, "Yo, Logan, so much where you learned to ski like that?" I thought, "I don't know. I just did it." You know, out of 157 guys, I went third in that contest. You know, one guy won both of them, the downhill and the gates, and he was like an Olympian. He was that good. I think Buddy Golden went second. He was an excellent skier, and he beat me by a 1/10 of a second, something like that. So, you know, where'd I learn to ski like that? Couldn't tell you. Same, but it's when I was riding bulls, it was almost like I was above myself, watching myself, but I knew better not to get down there and mess with it. I'd fuck it up, you know. You know, like an out of body, you know, leave it alone. You know, one of the worst things can happen. Cost me Penland, Oregon in 1965, I guess. My rookie year, was it 64, 60? Might have been 64.
I think it was 64 from what I was reading.
Yeah, I think it was 64. Yeah, that first year that I went there. As I went second in the first round, come back in the short round with a bull called Troubleshooter, you know, and he's away from my hand, and I'm just knocking him out, you know, for about 7 seconds. I'm right in the middle of him, and all of a sudden I say to myself, "I'm going to win Penland." The second I said that, I'm on the ground. Because you switch from the unconscious to the conscious as soon as you start to count your money. You know? So you know, then I come back in 72, and that's during that hot streak that I was on, where I rode every damn thing. And I remember I was in the rodeo office, and this guy said, "Man, whatever you do, don't draw me this bull. I'm jerking everybody down." And they said, "Gary Leffew, I drew him." You know, so I went out and listened to a tape by what the hell was his name? Oh God, think of a second here. He had a program called Dare to Be Great, and he was a hairlip from Alabama, you know, who went into sales. They said, "Hey, you can't sell, you can't hardly talk." You know, by the time he's 33 years old, he's worth $150 million. You know, this guy was so motivated. He had me so pumped up. Man, all I could think about was spur that bull in the neck, you know, and I spurred him every round, win the short round. But the last bull rider out, Brian Claypool, rode many shadows and beat me by a point. So then I come back, you know, hell, I wasn't even rodeoing anymore in 1979. Some of my students said, "Hell, make a little run with us." My son Judd was about 4 years old. So I loaded him up, me and Judd and these other kids. We would start going some rodeos. And every rodeo I went to, I rode my bull, but I didn't place. And they said, "Man, you're unlucky." I said, "No, I'm due." You know, I go next to ride him. They say, "You're unlucky." I said, "No, I'm due." You know, so I go to Penland. They said, "When you up?" I said, 8 o'clock in the morning, slack. They said, "You're unlucky." I said, "I'm due." You know, so it was cold. It was like, you know, there was frost all over that lawn out there that morning. I put Judd up there with some girls, got on this bull. He must have been cold as me, because he licked his butt right in the gate, and I went second in the round. Come back, I was 89 in the short round, win the average. And I come back, had all this stuff. Said, "Told you boys, I was due." You know?
Oh yeah.
And then I got hot and started winning everything. You know, so so it's you just, you know, there's peaks and valleys in rodeos. You know, you're going to have hot streaks, you're going to have cold streaks, but as long as you stay motivated, you stay focused, you know, you'll end up in the right spot at the end of the year. You know,
there's a couple more things, Gary. So you mentioned Johnny Knoxville. I really want to get to that.
Yeah.
But before we go there, I want to ask about your current goals. You talk about peaks and valleys in bull riding, but there's peaks and valleys in all of our lives too. And that we can kind of make things a little smoother with our mindset, but there's still peaks and valleys. But I want to talk about that a little bit, but talk about what your current goals are. What are you working on? What's your vision for the next, 25, 30 years? Like what does it look like? Or what are your goals right now?
I've really focused a lot, and they say if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life, and I love coaching, as I've And I love figuring things out, and I love seeing guys win, and so my goals for I don't know how long have been, to be the world's best coach, to make my students, take them to that next level, take them to that championship level, and my students are really dominating. Everyone there still talking the old lift and reach techniques, and everyone, Terry Don West said, that time that you talk about that a bunch of bullshit about pushing all that stuff. He was one of the great push riders that ever lived. Of course, he didn't do it. I said, I watched a million videos of him. And I said, his straight arm, he got his arm stuck out between his ass that far. I said, if that's a lift, that's a backward lift. But you mentioned lift, you go to his school, he cusses you. Man, he just, and he just like, you can't, as a teacher, you can't be hard-headed. You can't be, you have to be open-minded. Because what you think you're, even Donnie Gay, when I sat down with him at the finals there one year, and I had all these pictures, stuff that you can put on your internet now, but back then I had to go through a machine and run video through a machine, and I'd stop a frame and it'd make a picture for me. So I had all these pictures of these incredible rides at the top of the jump and at the top of the kick, and I carried them around with me, and I'd show them to different guys, and I'd say, this is where you want to be. And so I wanted to put them on the internet and or on YouTube, and show the young riders and kind of break them down. Show, the same thing I do on the internet today is just breaking guys down and showing the young riders how the great riders ride and how they straight arm out there, the angles they get into their hand, what they do going away from their hand. And, I just put it out there because it's right in front of you. You can't deny it, And so I said, I told Donnie Gay, I said, Donnie, I want to put you, I want to put Tuff Hedeman, and Tuff and Jim Sharp, all them guys, they were fine with it. Donnie goes, let's get on the same page. What are you trying to show? So we sat down lunch in Las Vegas, and I put all these pictures in front of him. I had 5 different sets of him under the table, and I laid them out there. And here's Tuff Hedeman, Jim Sharp. I mean, you name it, the Adrian Moraes, the legend of the game. And at the top of the jump, top of the kick, and they're all at their butts, and, even with the rope out, foot in front of the rope and sometimes. So I said, what do you think of these pictures? Donnie took his finger, he ran down each one of them, he slammed his finger down. He says, every one of these guys are in what I call improper position. I said, really? If they were in your school, what'd you tell them? He said, well, I tell them, get their ass back down on that bull, get a bend in their arm like I do on the Mighty Bucky. And of all the things that creates bad habits, the Mighty Bucky is the worst, because it's anything you're spinning. You go back to the old El Toro when it cracked out in the 70s. Everybody bought one, and they start riding it, they start spinning. Well, it's backing up. Well, it creates the motion of a bull backing up. You get a backing up bull, you're going to ride him perfect. But a bull going forward, it totally annihilated guys. Start sitting down on their ass, and I bought one. Didn't take me very long to see that it wasn't working. And the only thing I did with it, use it as a jump and kick. I used it like an ancient drop barrel, because you get out on the front of it, it made a fairly good drop barrel. Kind of uncomfortable on your legs, but I remember seeing pictures of Mike Lee. He had one of the old El Toros that didn't spin. It was an old Bronc machine, and he had a switch in his garage. He'd go out there and get on, just post, set his hips, just ride it, jump and kick it. He'd come into the PBR, was riding 86% of the bulls. He was getting on. He's the highest percentage in there. The thing that turned him around after he won the world championship is he changed ropes to one of them crossback ropes where you double braid the bottom and you run the handle at an angle. Well, that runs your knuckles down there where you can't turn your knuckles over to get out in front of your ropes. I got pictures of Mike with his hand that far behind his butt in his championship days. He went 3 years, never won a cup, and his riding went from 86% to below 50%, and he got injured a bunch during that period because he couldn't get back out in front of that rope where he'd been riding before. So there's a lot of variables there that no matter how much you want to get out in front of your rope, you can't get there if your rope won't let you get there. When I was in Mexico, I had like 30 some kids at a school in Saltillo, Mexico. We spent 3 days just doing drills, and I turned every one of their Brazilian ropes over to the point where they could turn their hand over and get out front. Their riding turned around so much when they started riding, it was unbelievable. They got out in front of the rope. They couldn't believe how easy them rank bulls rode once they got out there. And there was some talented young kids down there that just never had been out there where the money is, But anyway, we go back to the Mighty Bucky down. You say, get on the, like I do on the Mighty Bucky, And then when I showed these 5 pictures of him out in front of his rope with his hand behind his ass that far. He was flabbergasted. He goes, "That's bullshit. That's camera angle. I never did that." 2 years later, he finally come up to me. He said, "I owe you an apology. You never kid. I ever taught an apology because I taught him wrong." So with 8 World Championships, you'd think you'd know how you ride, but you don't, because I didn't know how I rode. And, even though I was a world champion and everything I'd done, I had to go back and break it down and what I thought I knew I didn't know, as I just, to become a teacher, I had to make sure that I was teaching it right, so I broke it down one jump at a time, every type of bull,
Well, so I was curious more about kind of goals you have now. Is it's still to be the greatest bull riding coach in the business?
Yeah. I'm 77 years old. The other day I might see a picture of me going over jumps with no hands, so I'm 77, but I feel like I'm 57, maybe 47. I'm in really good health. During COVID, I gained a little weight, because they canceled all my schools and we just sitting around eating, but when I was in Mexico, when I was stretching those ropes of those Mexican kids, one of them had about 10 fingers slack, and I thought maybe if we could stretch it, we could get something out of there. So I had it on a leverage point, for on a bucking chute, and I kept putting guys on it. When I got the 5th guy on it, it broke, and it come back and hit me in the hand, and it Ouch. Annihilated the bone in my hand. It damn it, just like when they X-rayed it, there was like these holes in it. They were scared it was cancer for a while, so I had to have it operated on, but it was okay, and they cleaned it up, but. During the test, they said, "You realize that you're borderline diabetic?" I said, "No shit," So I was like 174 pounds then. I'm 144 now, so I dropped 30 pounds. I feel better than I ever have in my life. So it's just like, I just I stay on a high protein diet. And I exercise. I think because my mind is constantly working, it keeps you young. So. I'm probably the youngest 77-year-old you'll meet for a while, and the mind's still sharp, everything works, so so I'm happy, but like I say, I wrote a movie script. I'm probably going to write a book one of these days, and I got to go back to California. I've been back in 5 years, but when I finished Deadwood, I spent I forget how many months writing a screenplay. I woke up every night about 1 o'clock in the morning with a head full of stories, and I wrote from 1 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock at night. And then I'd sleep for maybe 2 hours, and then I'd wake up, from then on about 2 o'clock in the morning to midnight. I would write, sleep 2 hours, and then do it again. Between 2 in the morning when I started writing and midnight the next night went by like in a flash. I would be lost in writing, and I'd always play classical music, and I would write totally from the unconscious side of the mind, where I wasn't thinking about what I was writing. I just wrote. But I would think maybe a half hour went by, and I'd look up and 6 hours it went by. You're in a, it's like Einstein said, time's, there's no constant to time. It can go by really fast. It can go by really slow. He said, if you left the earth at the speed of light and you stayed in space for 10 years, when you come back, 3 generations would have come and gone, So I quantum physics will blow you away when you start thinking about it. But they talk about how connected everything is, A subatomic particle on Earth knows what a subatomic particle is doing on a galaxy 150 million light years away from us at the same time. We're that connected, So when you start to realize how manifestation works, when you start manifesting things into your life, when you start focusing what you want to be and what you want to do, and you start put feeling in it, because feelings are like the energy that sends out the radio beacons to the universe, that brings everything back into your life. You need to make those goals become a reality. It's very, very powerful. I've been working with barrel racers, and barrel racing is such a mental game, because you have to have that connection between the rider and the animal, and they have to go there together. You get them, if they don't get down on that same level with that animal, they just fuck them up. I was sitting with Carly Pierce signing autographs a few years ago at the finals, and five rounds went by, and I said, "How you doing this year, Carly?" She said, "Well, I'm number one in one category." I said, "What's that?" She goes, "No one's knocked over more barrels than me." She goes, she said, "I only knocked over 2 barrels all year, and I knocked over 3 the first night. It's just been a shit show." I said, "What seems to be the problem?" She goes, "Well, I don't think my horse likes this arena. He doesn't like the color of the walls." I said, "No, that's not the problem." She goes, "What is the problem?" I said, "From the neck up." I said, "It's called beta brainwaves, because horses don't have beta brainwaves. They're lower level consciousness." And I said, "When you're on beta brainwaves, the same way the bull, he'll fight the chute. He'll run you down the gate. He gets goofier in hell when you're on the conscious side of the mind. You drop down that other side, you go there together." Sage Kimsey, every time he gets on a bull, he slaps him on the hump. He said, hey, we're just 2 balls of energy going in the same direction. But these barrel races, I said, okay, I'm going to teach you some visualization and some breathing techniques that'll put you down there, because we're going to get you in that feeling spot where your horse is, get you down there. I want you to remember what it felt like, not what it looked like, what it felt like, the best run that you ever made in your life, And so using that technique, she went out that night and broke the arena record. In the next 5 rounds, she won 2 firsts, 3 seconds, and over $80,000. Everything turned around for her. She brings her boyfriend to me the next year, and he's in the Boyd Gaming shootout against Joe Beaver, fucking Cody Old, every legendary calf roper out there, and he's scared shitless, And so I talked with him an hour about what we talked about when I showed up and I had the shittiest bull there, and my thoughts made him the best bull there. I changed him by my thought process. I didn't go there and just accept the fact that he was a bad draw. If I had him, he was a good draw, So I said, the worst thing about calf ropers is they're mentally beat when they draw the kicking calf, or they draw this calf, or the calf runs too fast, he kicked, or whatever. I said, no matter what he is, if you got him, he's the one to have, So on the way out the rodeo the next day, he turns to Carly and goes, "God, I hope I don't draw that kicking calf." She turns and said, "What Gary Leffew you spent an hour telling you last night? If you got him, that's the one you need." He gets there, he's got the kicking calf. He goes out with a good attitude, wins the round, ends up winning the whole shoot match, beats all them guys, wins the contest, So everything turns around when you start to send out a different energy and a different message to the universe, So don't accept the fact that this bull don't work or that don't work, make them work,
You mentioned Johnny Knoxville a while ago. There's a new Jackass movie, Jackass Forever, coming out in February here. You sold a script to Johnny, or what?
Yeah,
was the story
we come really close to getting it made. Mike Judge, the guy that does King of the Hill, was going to direct it. Johnny and Luke Wilson were going to play the characters in it. Spike Jones was producing it. We were, the only mistake that got made was because I'm not a script writer, but all the stories were there, and it was a comedy instead of a serious piece. And so I sat down in Johnny's house one night. Johnny, Luke Wilson was there, Mike Judge was there, Spike Jones was there, and the Borat brothers were there. The Borat brothers were going to put up 10 million. They loved the stories, Johnny and Luke were going to play in it. We had a dream team together. We wanted Mike Judge's guy to rewrite it because he's a comedy guy. You're watching his stuff, King of the Hill.
Yeah, King of the Hill's great. Yeah.
So he's funny, great guy. And when you're rodeoing, we only worked 8 seconds a day, so we got into a lot of mischief in those days. So it was, so there was a million great stories in there. There's even more than they didn't have to make 10 scripts. But and they loved the stories. Johnny called me up one night, the next day. He said, "Do you realize?" And this one, Mike Judge and all them guys were at his house. And he said, "Do you realize that you told stories for 8 hours straight, nonstop?" He said it was like Comedy Central. Just had a laughing their ass off. Judd was with me and he was telling stories. It was, they couldn't wait to make the movie. The problem was instead of Mike Judge's guy rewriting it, Spike Jonze owed a favor to some guy from Mill Valley. He rewrote it, took out all the funny stuff, tried to make a serious piece out of it. And I think that's probably what they do with all rodeo scripts, is they try to make them too serious instead of putting the fun part in there. And then the Boyd brothers said, "Shit, we want to buy a comedy. We don't want a serious piece." And then the movie business, timing's everything, So it kind of got this guy went that way, that guy went away, so it kind of went away, But I got to go home in February, and all the stories that I wrote, and all the stories, the funniest stories that and things that ever happened that I've seen and was a part of in my rodeo career are all there, So I'm bringing those back, and I'll put them into book form, so we're going to start getting them out there, and I met with some guys that do webcasts or podcasts for NASCAR, and they really like these stories, and so they want to start doing some podcasts and just, bringing up them stories, and so I said, shit, I got every one of them written down. I got a million of them. So we'll have some little adventures, some stories about the old days, and bring in some of those characters and the ones that are still alive, So,
yeah.
So anyway, so I think it's going to be real fun, to reminisce and go back to all those wild days, Friday night at the fights at Cheyenne, there was a bar called the Mayflower there, and every night a brawl would break out. There would be like 100 guys fighting in there, The cops would come in, break it up, nobody go to jail, and then they'd say, "How you guys get along?" The next night they'd mill around like a bunch of bulls. As soon as one punched the throat, I mean, it was on again, So there was so many stories from those days of crazy shit that we did, and then a lot of good serious stories too, about what it took to win, and some of the characters that were around in those days that didn't win, because when I started rodeoing, gasoline ranged somewhere between 15 and the most you would pay was 29 cents a gallon. A Motel 6 cost $6. The expensive one down the street was $9. You could find all you could eat smorgasbord in any town for 99 cents, So there was guys that could survive then, because they paid them $10 to mount out stock. They worked the labor list. They weren't good. They went a little bit here and there, but they weren't your top rodeo cowboys. They weren't the winners, and they didn't win a whole lot, but they were able to survive because it didn't take much to survive in those days. Those guys ain't around anymore, because if you ain't winning, you don't stay out there very long today, because it's expensive out there and money don't go very far. Back then it did, Good God, they're just with the administrations they have now, just some inflation, the way things going up, it's just money don't go nowhere. But it was sure fun then.
I bet.
Yeah.
I gotta ask about the Jackass stuff though in Knoxville, and like you guys go back a long time now to probably about 20 years.
Yeah, I was when I got towards the end of my rodeo career, someone asked me, said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to start doing television commercials." They said, "You ain't no actor." I said, "I wasn't a bull rider I want to start either." But it pays a lot of money. I'll get good at it. I think I did 13 national commercials the first year that I started, and I made about $500,000 in residuals. One I did a Bush beer that year, made $350,000 in residuals. I did a Right Guard's first stick commercial that year. It made $50,000. So I made probably between 150 and 200 commercials. Produced a lot of commercials with that had bulls and stuff in them. So made a lot of money. Got a retirement from that there. But it was. When I kind of got into positive thinking, I said, if I'm going to do something, then I'm going to get paid for having fun. If it ain't fun, why do it? Why go to work every day at a job that you hate? Life's too short for that. Life should be an adventure. Every day you should can't wait to get out of bed to get out there and do what you do. And if you're not, then you better change professions. Find out what really blows your dress up. What makes you happy. You can make less money and be happy. Money don't bring you happiness. I was if you ever get a chance, there's a deal called the Landmark Forum, and you can do it on a Zoom deal anymore, because COVID when I was there was probably 300 people in one room. It was like a microcosm of the world. One guy stood up and he said, I can honestly say I can buy and sell all three of them. I got enough, I've made enough money and I'm worth enough money. I can buy and sell everybody in here. But I can also say I've never spent one happy day in my life. Another girl stood up and she said, I've made millions of dollars as an actress ever since I was a kid. She held up her arm. She had one cut after another where she tried to off herself, you know. So it was really interesting because they were all looking for the secret to happiness, you know. Happiness is a worthwhile, you know, what I talk about where when you're doing something that you love and you're progressively working towards that ideal of your perfect scenario, then you're the happiest you'll ever be, you know. So a lot of people think it's just money is going to, you know, bring you that happiness. Money, you know, money is just a barter, you know. You're trading it for what does make you happy, you know. You know, but you know, we're goal-striving beings. We have to be striving for something, or we're not happy. You see rich kids, you know, get into drugs, they commit suicide. There's just there's all kinds of, you know, if you take away. I remember we were on a reservation. Oh, geez, we must have been 50 miles from William Lakes, British Columbia, on a res up there having a school, and the Indians were walking around look like a bunch of zombies, you know. And I asked this Abe Kruger, this friend of mine who's half Indian, half Chinese, and I said, Abe, what's the matter with these Indians? They look like a bunch of zombies. And he stopped for a second and he looked at me. They had free housing, they had free food, they had everything they needed for the sustenance of life. But he looked at me, he said, they got no dreams. When you got no dreams, no matter what they give you, you're not happy. You know, then your dreams become, you know, your motivation becomes drugs or whatever, you know, and that's such a false high that, you know, you get caught up in it and it just ruins your life, you know. So you need a dream, you know, when you're reaching for a dream and you're progressively working your way there, no matter what it is, if it makes you happy, then you're the wealthiest guy on earth, you know. It ain't about millions of dollars and, you know, it's about happiness, you know. And, you know, I've been one of the lucky ones that I've been able to stay in a direction of doing things that I love doing, you know, and I've been, you know, successful at it, you know. So the next chapter, you know, yeah, we're going to write a book. We're going to do some podcasts. We're going to try to motivate people. We're going to try to entertain people and you know, and keep turning out champions like we turn out, you know, because, you know, when guys come to me with that dream, they reminded me when I was young and I had that dream, you know, and I like helping them. I like them, you know, like seeing them make that progress and get there, you know, and when they get there, I get there.
Going back to the Jackass stuff with that new movie on the go, like you've had those guys out at the ranch a number of different times, and there's some more bull riding stuff in this next show as well. I'm really curious about your experience with Knoxville and all that crew, and them being at your place.
You know, he was a commercial actor like I was, you know, so I run into him on commercial interviews in Hollywood, and he told me about his idea for Jackass, you know, and I said, well, come up. And I'll make you a pilot, you know. We'll do a pilot up there, you know. And he said, so I had this bull called Mr. Mean. He had huge horns. He is, you know, guys that get to the top of the fence, he'd hook his horn around and jerk him back in the arena and hook the shit up. He was fucking as mean as his name, you know. But I said, you know, when we get there, I said, let's meet Mr. Mean. You know, let's just not, most guys you see, they run a bull in, they're climbing down on a bull, but you don't know the history of this bull. You know, when Johnny come up, we had Mr. Mean in the back pen. One video, he's fighting another bull. Another one, he's charging, pawing, you know, and you see in his eyes that you can see the meanness there. It's like you're looking at in the eyes of the devil, you know. And Johnny's over there, he's looking at him, looking back at us. He said, what do you think my chances are? Slim and none, you know. Just so everybody asked, yeah, you ain't got a chance of hell right, that's a bitch, you know. So the drama was built by the time he got on him, you know. And then you know, he's in this skateboarding outfit. He rode him about 6 seconds, you know. He had a lot of balance, you know. Then when he come off, boy, Mr. Mean turned and the bullfighter stepped in just at the right time, or, you know, probably should have let him go and let him get smoked. You know, that bull was going to smoke his ass, boy. But, and then he just kept coming back, you know. There's so many crazy things we've done with him up there, you know, and wrecked him out quite a bit. But, you know, the yak is by one of the most famous. The Toro Totter that was done in my arena. This last one we did a little over a year ago. Let me see. You still there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're here. We just lost your video.
Okay, let me see what I put hold and accept.
Here, I'll push a button and it should say accept.
You there?
There we go.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
We still got your audio, but we lost your video here. Oh, there you are. Now you're back. We're good.
Okay, can you hear me?
Kept you too long.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry, Gary.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, so anyway, Knoxville, the last one here we did, we turned him. He come off this horn. He looked like a pinwheel spinning like this, and he hit the ground and he broke some stuff, knocked him out for quite a while. But he'd been knocked out so many times, he knocks out pretty easy. You know, it's, probably going to have some head problems when he gets older. But yeah, he's a fun guy, a brave guy. I mean, he'll anything you do. But I've always tried to keep it as safe as I can for bull riding, but it's impossible to keep bull riding completely safe. You know, so he's had a few wrecks, but it sure made some good watching.
Well, and you guys have done some stuff with like Rob Deerdeck and them too, I think. But the Jackass franchise has been like a pretty incredible hit, probably as far as what you guys have done at the house, right?
Oh yeah. And we did that last one in L.A. because COVID, they wouldn't let them get out of L.A. County, so we did it at a friend's of mine out there by Thousand Oaks, and Rob Deerdick. We took a bull right in the Fantasy Factory. This bull was meaner than sin. God, they dropped the life-size dummy of Drama who had to get hooked in the ass by him the next day, and this bull demolished it in seconds, and they had this red straw and they pulled it out. It was falling out of it. It was funnier than hell. That bull was making noise like a demon, like, like it was wild. And Drama was so scared when he showed up the next day. I said, he looked like you could see he hadn't slept an ounce, and I said, look at old Drama, man. And the bulls that we were putting him on, there was two bulls. He had to, if he didn't get the shot on one, he had to do the other one. One was called Murder and the other was called Death. So I said, look at old Drama, man. He hadn't slept all night. He's been contemplating murder and death. So we were there from, like we started at like 8:30 in the morning, and he run every time they turned them bulls out. And he finally, just before sundown, I finally had this long talk with him and told him, the universe will take care of you. This is what you're born to do. And, just, got him pumped up. He stood there and the bull hooked him. And he, went in there and landed on his back. Finally got the shot, but it was, boy, there's a lot of drama in between, so.
Oh, geez.
But.
I got one more question, Wacey.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll wrap it up.
I got a question too, but you go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, you go. You're rolling. You go. Mine's can wait.
Okay, we got to wrap it up pretty quick here too. But greatest bull riders of all time. You mentioned George Paul at one point, Gary, but you've seen all the guys from Mooney to Sage to to Donnie Gay. Who in your opinion is the greatest of all time, and why?
Well, I'm still a George Paul fan, because I think if he was around today, he was such a great athlete. He was such a great bull rider. He's such a great athlete. It's a shame that his career got cut short. And of course he's raised on a 1 million acre ranch in Mexico. So he was, he's dividing his time between that ranch and bull riding. So after he won the world, he kind of took some time off, and then he come back, and he was on a roll when he come back. But the bad thing about George is he'd go to sleep, set that thing on autopilot, and trust that it was going to be there, and it ended up getting him killed. But I think George would be my number one, and then it's a toss up between Tough Hedeman. Like when we were doing the bull riders only, we kept track of everybody's percentage of riding in the second and third round, and there were only 5 guys, and everybody that rode bulls was in the bull riders only. It's like and then the PBR branched off from there, but 5 guys were above 50%, Tough Hedeman rode over 90% of the bulls he got on every year. So Tough would be, one of my, I think one of the greatest bull riders that ever lived. Donnie Gay, Donnie Gay is one of the winningest bull riders of all time, because he was so competitive. And, he's one of those guys that when the championship was on the line, he might have fallen off here or there, but when it come down to the nut cutting and the championship was on the line, he was like your clutch guy. He was a guy that's going to get the whistle, because he had such a strong mind, Sage right in there for one of the most, mechanically correct bull riders of all time. And just, you haven't seen how great he is yet. He just, he's after Donnie Gay's record and beyond, so, and I don't doubt that he'll get it because he's very motivated, and Donnie kind of knows he'll get it too. This Jose Lemmy is just like, holy heaven, what an athlete. He's as good as he's right in there in that top 5 of the best of all time, and a lot of guys think he's as good as there ever was. And I'm right on that deal, but, his career's still young yet. He's won a couple championships, but, he's, God, he's amazing. He had a weakness going away from his hand. He fixed it. He's got better going that way. So no telling where he's going to go. And Troy Dunn, you talk about great bull riders out, talk about the great Troy Dunn. He was just like, what the man. He was the bull rider's bull rider, just the made rank bulls look easy, so those would be my top guys. Yeah.
Okay. Wacey, let's wrap her up here.
Yeah. So, I got couple more questions before we wrap up here, Gary. Earlier on, you mentioned working with Luke Perry and on 8 seconds, that kind of stuff, and how you basically had to train him without putting him on a bull. But not long after everything wrapped up filming, he did come to one of the BRO events and got on. Well,
the last day of the movie, after he, I trained him. I sent him to the equitation center to get jumping horse lessons. To learn how to ride a horse. He didn't know how to ride a horse. So first he had equitation lessons, and then he took jumping horse lessons. He bought 2 horses. He brought them down to San Antonio. We did horse drills every day, and I'm big on horse drills. I have a German a Dutch warm blood that was pretty bronky when we got him, but he's a sweetheart now. But I put my students on him and practice the jumping technique, and make them do it with no hands, and just there's not a better cross training in the world than riding jumping horses. So he did the jumping horse drills. We did the drills every day, and then I had him watch 20 minutes of Lane's Greatest Rides every day. And then everything he did, I said, pretend you're Lane Frost when you're doing it, because get in the spirit of Lane. The last thing I told him when he got on his first bull, and they didn't put him on no easy bull. This bull kicked over his head and turned back right in the gate. And it was a buck and some buck, probably an 85-point ride at least. And the last thing I told him is, you're Lane Frost, you're Lane Frost. And he nodded, he slid up, and Lane would always go, okay, man, okay, man, okay, man. He just keeps saying that over and over till the gate opened. He did that, the gate opened, that bull kicked over his head, turned back. He rode him about 6 seconds, spurred him the last 2 rounds, stepped off perfectly on his feet, did that little hand deal like he does. It blowed everybody away. People Magazine was there. There's me and him and the assistant director, picture of us there, me congratulating him, So it was really showed that, the power of visualization, of role modeling, and that my drills work. So if I can train a guy to ride and make a rank bull ride without ever putting him on a bull, then what I'm teaching damn sure works. And I think it's the amazing, results of my students since then has showed that, they can cuss me all they want, but I keep getting results. So just keep cussing me because I know I'm winning.
Well, that's definitely something that Ted and I can attest to, being around you and going to your schools and stuff, and even just the life takeaways that we've had. There's the one that sticks with me too that you always would mention is the prior and proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And I love that one. That one I use it all the time.
Yeah. And like my son, when he asked Adriano, he said, "Do you do drills?" And he said, in front of a mirror for hours. You don't do a drill 1 time, 2 times. You got to be passionate about it. You got to do it over and over and over. You got to eat, live, and breathe it. So when you get on that bull, if you're having to think about the bull ride the day you're getting on, then you ain't done your homework. everything should be in place by the time you get that rodeo. The only thing that you want to think about when you get that rodeo is clear your head and don't think, get off the thinking process. Because if you're thinking about the ride that day or but they're coming up saying this bull's going to come hard to the left, he's going to come hard to the right. I said, I don't give a shit where he goes. I'm not going to buy into he's going to go left, he's going to go to the right. I don't care where he goes. I'll be ready. I'm going to be in the moment. When you're in the moment, as Zen masters say, everything happens for you, But if you're thinking, you get on that thinking side of the mind, you start anticipating what they're going to do, you're going to get caught in your own trap, by the time you think about that move, you're late. So do your homework. The day of competition, clear your head, don't think.
Well, Gary, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's been fun to catch up and then hear some stories again. And one more question for you before we wrap up. One we ask every single guest on the show here. What is your definition, or what is the meaning of the phrase cowboy shit to you?
Cowboy shit? I think cowboy shit is just, cowboy is an adventuresome life. It's like, I think we grew up on John Wayne movies, and I think that's why there was so many bar fights in the old days, because every one of them old Western movies, there was always a big bar fight, and I loved Lonesome Dove, when he grabbed that bartender and slammed his face in the bar, I hate poultry service, those guys were cowboys, when Lonesome Dove was on, I didn't answer my phone. I locked my door. I didn't want to be disturbed, man. That was probably the greatest Western I ever seen, and because, but that's what we strive to be. We grew up, idolizing cowboys, and you become what you think about, and we grew up on the Wild West, movies, and my dad was a cowboy all his life, and it just that whole cowboy mentality, but cowboys are gentlemen, they treat ladies with respect, they don't cuss in front of them. They don't, and they're gentlemen, but they're also they stand up for what they believe in, they'll fight for what they believe in, and if someone crosses them, or gets disrespectful, you're going to stand up and you're going to fight, and it's tough anymore, because they used to fight with your fists. Anymore they pull guns or knives, so there's one place in those days that you didn't fight was Southern Oklahoma, because there was one friend of mine I knew that rodeoed. He killed 2 guys with a knife in a bar down there. And he said there were 40 guys killed in that bar that year. And there only 3 of them went to trial, because it was like the real Wild West.
Wild West, yeah.
And yet that bar was the second most dangerous bar in the United States. The most dangerous bar, according to how many people were killed in it, was Lame Deer, Montana, at the Jimtown Bar. I don't know where you've been to Lame Deer, Montana. A little bar right off the res. Ain't no bigger than this room I'm in. There was more than 40 killings that year in that bar, So I never, when I went to Southern Oklahoma, there was no intention of fighting, no matter what they said, because they pull a knife, cut your guts out fast, and you could get a gun, But that's the way they live down there. It's old bootleggers, now a lot of drug traffic down there, So that's always been a wild place.
Wow. Is it called the Jimtown Bar and Casino? Is that what it was?
Remember the one Canadian the one guy was telling about to kill 2 guys. He come up there in Canada, carved a guy up in Canada one year up there. And they kicked him and the other guys with him out of Canada, and never let him come back.
Damn.
Holy shit.
I won't mention any names, but they were pretty wild. He's a world champion anyway, so both of them were. So.
That is wild.
Wild West, Southern Oklahoma. Stay away from that place.
We'll be tuning in for the stories, Gary, and I hope that
I can't wait for a book.
Yeah, I'm excited about the book and a lot of the other stories. I appreciate your time today for doing this too, though. Thanks. If
you guys get to Texas, come see me, man.
Yeah.
I last time I come to Canada, they wouldn't let me across. I had like 35 kids waiting over there. They turned me around and sent me back to Denver. I had to stay there a couple of days because I had to pay my own way back. It was like, it's horrible when you can't get across the border.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I was pissed. But I put a couple of pictures of Adolf Hitler and some other, one of our henchmen in during the Nazi. I said, here, these guys stopped me at the border, wouldn't let me cross. I was pissed, So I ain't been back to Canada since, so. But so I just tell, if you want to see the guru, come down and see me down here. I loved it up there, but it's tough to get across that border. They unless it's really tough to get a permit, So I quit coming. So sorry about that. I loved it up there when I did come.
You're still wearing the hat from Vern, it looks like, though, too.
This one here is actually this American hat right here.
Oh, okay.
The one I got from Burn is a little more wore out than this.
Yeah, I was wondering.
But he
looked
makes
like
a good hat, boy. That good one,
Heck
This one here, I just had to get a new one because I'd wore that one so many years. It got pretty wore out.
Oh, fair enough.
It's one to we'll be back in Texas lots this upcoming year, so we'll definitely come by and say hi. And where can people find the school information, or if they want to come see you, where's the best place to reach you?
Just go Gary Leffew Gary Leffew's Bull Riding World, with an S, GaryLeffew'sBullRidingWorld.com, and all my schedules on there. And I got my phone number on there. Just get a hold of me and come see me. And like I say, we'll try to make a champion out of everybody we work with, So
awesome.
Good visit with you guys. And
yeah, you too,
can't
Gary.
wait to see you guys. Come to Texas. We'll go to stockyards and get drunk and have fun.
Hell yeah. Can't wait.
Welcome back. This is episode 109 of Cowboy Shit. I'm Ted. He's Wacey. Thanks to our editor, Sean Morton, for staying with us. Our longest tenured podcast editor of all time.
Yeah. He still likes us.
Yeah.
I think at this point, Sean just doesn't have a choice. He can't leave. You're here forever, dude.
No, I think he has a choice. There's definitely a choice.
No.
Definitely.
Not allowed. He's here forever. I have
anyway.
a question for you.
Excuse me.
Quick one. I don't know if this is something we've ever talked about. What is your greatest fear?
Ooh,
part two to the question. What's a fear that you want to face in the next year or two, next couple? Like, what's the fear you want to face? I shouldn't put a time on it.
I'm not sure what that would be right now. I could get really dark. I don't want to go too dark though. It might get weird.
Our show, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go down that road though, because it's like, I guess the other thing is like going back to what Gary said. The negative things we think of is what we manifest, right? So I don't even want to have that negative shit in my mind.
My greatest fear is snakes.
Snakes?
They fucking scare me. And a fear that I want to face is my fear of heights. I want to go skydiving.
Well, so speaking of that, Sean used to do that kind of thing.
I know, yeah, we've talked about it before. I think have you been skydiving?
No, I haven't. I don't know if it's something I really want to do though. I think parts of it would be fun, but I don't know.
Would you rather skydive or bungee jump?
Skydive, I think.
Yeah, me too. I wouldn't want to bungee jump. That's stupid shit.
I don't think it would be much fun. No, I would skydive. I would do that.
It'd be cool.
Fun to do it with like a bunch of us.
It'd be neat because like you're obviously tied to a professional. So if I try, just like I'd be like, dude, like just throw me out of the plane. Like if I try to stop you, like just go. Like I'll be fine.
That's true, eh? That's true.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think you just gotta like send it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we need to do. I'd love to go with like Sean and a few of us go and do it kind of thing. It'd be fun to go with somebody like Sean being an expert because he could probably fuck with us and like really mess around. But
you know what?
It's crazy to think Sean's like an engineer and does a lot of like really cool shit.
Sean is a very smart guy.
Yeah, and then used to skydive. It's fucking.
I used to fight bulls.
Yeah, I was a bullfighter too. Yeah, it's kind of crazy like how he's like a domesticated family man now.
We need to do one of these like top and bottom segments with Sean. Get him on here so people can know him.
Well, we've done a little bit with him, but
like we gotta like give him some
more airtime.
Drill down a little bit. Talk a bit more about the skydiving, bullfighting side of things.
Sean, if you're hearing this, let us know when you want to do that. We'll line it up.
This is another thing you don't have a choice in. You have to stay with us forever, and you have to come do a segment with us.
Oh, wait, you know what the next show is too after this one? Is the next one or the one after? It's almost time for another edition of.
Oh man.
No, we're not. You're not the subject this time.
The Bachelor. Are we doing something? Are we doing it?
I just forgot about it, but we got to get after this. Yeah. Okay. So the Bachelorette. I want to go Bachelorette episode 110, February 9th. Or we could do it. Well, I think it's gonna be before Valentine's Day. It can't be after. So we're gonna have to like record this in the
next week.
Yeah.
Before we go to Kimberly, which is fine. That's work to be done. But hey, you know what?
We can't really do it on the weekend.
So we're doing the Bachelorette. So we're gonna have to put up an application form here like tomorrow.
Well, we're gonna have to do it like a weeknight too. It's gonna have to be like on like a Monday or a Sunday.
Well, can't we do it the weekend before Valentine's Day though? Like the Friday before Valentine's Day? No, it's not.
The show's out on the 9th. unless you want to do it after. I'm gonna fly.
I think we could. I think we should. I think we could do.
I think it would be less appropriate after.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to figure this out. We'll have to talk about this off air. But anyways,
Okay.
we're gonna
Anyways,
do
that's
the Bachelor.
plan.
We're gonna do the Bachelorette.
We would like to. We might not get to it. This might just be a pipe dream, but at some point we want to do that.
So for those wondering, the reason why I don't want to do it again for the third time is for that very reason. It'd be the third time of me doing it. I still haven't found love yet. So I think that's a major red flag on my end of things. If I were to have the third Bachelor, I think people would be like, "This guy's a scumbag."
You don't want to advertise
No,
that.
And you know what? It's one of those things where
We had our fun.
My love life and my love struggles are very well known to most people who listen to the show regularly. And I think I'm just at a point where I'm going to spare the people my troubles, my sorrows.
Speaking of looking for love in all the wrong places, we actually lost
God.
Wacey in Dallas for a while.
I was lost for a few hours.
So we were in Dallas. We were just in the U.S. the other day for we went to the Western English Sales Association. We had a big trade show and took Cowboy shit into the U.S. market. We added like 25, 26. I had another one called me today actually in order Wacey too. So we're at 26 stores now in the U.S.
Hell yeah!
I think I've got to go back and look maybe, but I think like 26 locations and maybe
we went from
like
0 to probably
1.
26 locations.
Yeah, about that, maybe 30. But good trip. Had a lot of great time. A lot of great people. Montana Silversmiths, Guinness World Record, the largest belt buckle. That was a pretty cool presentation.
Hell yeah.
We met a bunch of great folks. Met some folks from the PRCA, from the PBR as well. What else? A lot of
our friends at Kimes. Our Kimes friends.
Yeah, we met that crew. Hung out with our friends with Wrangler as well. Saw our buddy Clay. We hadn't seen him in a long time.
What a guy! I like Clay.
Yeah,
Shout out to
we
Clay,
had a good trip down there. A lot of fun. Wacey's first time at the big market. But yeah, we had a good trip.
Got some custom cowboy shit boots on the way.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But Wacey got lost. So so there was one night. What were we doing? We were like,
was the Wrangler party?
Was it
night?
Friday? Oh, the Wrangler party night. Okay, so it's Friday, and then we get back to the room like pretty late. It was probably like 11:30 midnight, and Storm and I go to bed like we're done, tired out. It's a long week already, and Wacey's in the room for a while, and then he just like he leaves for a while, and leaves the door open like it was a short enough trip from the room that he left the like door latched. So I'm like, well, he's got to be coming back pretty soon.
That was the intention. I was gonna come back.
Yeah, he's gonna come back. So he leaves his fucking boots, his phone, his
my watch,
his wallet, like everything, even his phone. Like you usually don't leave for like you're not going very far if you're leaving your phone. So he leaves, and then after a while, it's probably like 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, and the door's still open and like I'm trying to go back to sleep. He already woke me up when he got back because we went to bed earlier. So anyways, I go and like close the door, and I'm like, well, fuck, if he's not coming back, I'm just gonna close this thing. So close it up and then go to sleep and don't think too much of it. Then wake up in the morning, he's still not home, and I'm like, what the hell? And then we get a little worried because I'm like, geez, he never came home, and it was quite a while later, right? Like we're talking like it's like 8 a.m. and where the show starts at 8:30, and he's not back yet. And I'm like, I don't want to be alarmed. I'm not going to call his family yet. I'm not going to like alert the authorities, but like shit could have went wrong.
Man, if you would have called my mom, oh my God.
Yeah, because I didn't want to like freak out, right? Because I'm like, he's probably okay, but like then I got thinking, shit, we're in America, we're in a foreign country, it's COVID times. We're in a big city downtown. He could have got mugged. He might have got run over. He might have got a Dewey. You might have had to drive.
You start spiraling at this point.
Like, yeah, I'm just like, I'm thinking like worst case Ontario. And I'm thinking this could be bad. This could be real bad. But so I record a video and I'm like, Wacey's gone. We lost him. Dallas has him now. And I just recorded and I'm like, Storm, let's just sit on this for a while. Not panic. We're not going to, don't panic. And we'll see how this ends up. So we go, get to the show, and then I message him. I message like people that I knew that he was kind of with, and I'm like, hey, like, is he okay? Do you have him? Because you didn't have your phone, so we couldn't even get a hold of him.
I know.
I just like left a text on your phone. I was like, hey, just give us a shout. Let us know you're alive when you get this. because we left to go to the show. Like we had to go open the show, and he wasn't even around.
Yeah, you guys went to work.
He was a little bit of an unreliable worker that morning, just to not.
I put in my opening shifts. I did
put
my
in a
part.
couple opening shifts. Yeah,
I did half the time.
Yeah, you were there.
Everybody else did half. We had a good plan for the work structure. It worked out well.
But he's gone, and he's just totally MIA. And so I was like, hey, we're not gonna panic, not put this video out until we know he's okay. And then once I got a text that he was okay, and I was like, yeah, okay, put it out. And then he came back. When did you get there? Like noon, 1 o'clock? Like it was
like 11:30.
11:30, yeah. So we found him. He got back. Luckily, he didn't die. But it was.
I'm sorry for worrying you, friend.
Oh, it's fine. It was mostly funny.
It's fucking, yeah, so
I was a little
Dallas adventure.
Yeah, I was a little bit.
But like you said though, like I left the latch open of the door like with full intentions of coming back, and then I just
never did.
Never did.
Never did till the morning.
Mason
was lost for a while. Then we found him. But anyways,
it's just the way she goes.
That's probably enough for this show. We'll see you all again here.
Don't forget to get your tickets for Saturday night.
Yeah, come see us at the
Rush. Come check it out.
Check out our socials. Find yourself some tickets. Come and see us. Wacey is signing autographs in permanent marker. So
hell yeah,
one of those. He'll be signing some autographs. And yeah, we didn't get any of those signed in Regina. So
I still haven't run. I'm still looking for some to sign because I failed my task in Regina. But
yeah. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. We'll see you all down the road. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.